listed items, but before we go to the council listed items, I guess, Jim, we'll have you start with your presentation. Does that make sense?
Well,
Or you want us to go council listed first?
I think the way we should do the two items that I have is to go through the 18-19 goals first,
Okay.
and then do the
No problem. Okay, so this is a retreat. This is an opportunity for us to sit as a council and come up with goals while we're, over the next, not just over our term, but also there's some long-term planning goals that have been suggested as well. So I think if it's okay, I think we could relax the rules a little bit so it can be more of a conversation amongst the council as we discuss some of these items and what we'd like to, what I guess as a council, that we'd like to try to get accomplished. So with that said, Councilman Dunleavy has solicited requests from all the council members. What are some of the items that you'd like to see get accomplished? So let's go through each one. Let's flush it out. Let's see if there's consensus, and then we can add it to our list. Good, that's good?
That's fine with me. Yes, let's do this.
Yeah, but this is also could be our list. We discussed it, and also if there's something that's on here that's not on here that maybe a resident brings up or you just thought of, it's a retreat. It's not as a formal of a meeting. It's more of a it's more of a meeting for us to set goals and objectives. So prefab bathrooms in every park, starting with highest use. Councilman Kaplan.
So
I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
yeah, and the manager has various things that have already been vetted by the county. These are things that we don't need to put out to bid because co-ops are already there. We just need a will.
So here's the question. When we have the new bathroom facility that's opening up in Botee,
Yeah.
is the plan to remove the rest of the bathrooms? To remove half of the bathrooms? Or what's the plan?
So, well, we know that the prefab aren't what I call cheap, but they're not extraordinarily expensive either. I think it was about $250,000 for some of the models, and some are even cheaper than that. We can cover with most money getting rid of what really are horrible bathroom conditions in a lot of our highest use parks. I'm talking about the porta potties, the jobs, and whatnot, and put in these prefab units. And if we do it in the parks with the highest intensity use, and we see how one or two of them are used, I think we can be very positively surprised by the feedback they bring in, or perhaps not. But by trying it in the ones with the highest use, we get the best bang for our buck money-wise, and we'll take it from there.
So if this is an item that the council wishes to proceed forward with, do we have 4 people that are interested in moving forward on exploration?
Well, I agree
I would
with
say the
it.
next step is let's pass it to the Parks, Playground, Recreation, get their input, at the same time get
I
pricing.
think PPRAB is philosophically in agreement to look at and do something regarding the bathrooms. Excuse me. I'm sorry. The PPRAB, I am sure, is comfortable philosophically with doing something for the bathrooms. However, it's which bathroom, how much, and over how many budgets are we going to commit. So I think if for this type of thing, it's something, I'm thinking of this in very similar terms to a number of the things I proposed on the list in the strategic plan. And that is, we're going to need to put together a small group, include PPRAB, the manager, rec, probably DPW, okay, and review all the possible options for what those bathrooms could be. Obviously, high, low price, fees, whatever, and then to bring that back to PPRAB with a recommendation to council. That's what I think.
And
Council, Councilman Councilman Rice.
I just wanted to share that in the scope of the strategic plan, where does that fall in our hierarchy in terms of budgeting, and where does that fall in terms of priority?
It's sounds like from what Councilman Dunleavy is mentioning is that we don't know anything yet about the budget.
Well, if I can point to that.
But I wasn't quite there.
Oh, sorry.
The point in terms of the strategic plan demonstrates where the focus should be. So I think that this is something that could be folded into our strategic plan as we look towards, is this a priority, and where it falls once we make the determination. Because, as you mentioned, it's going to be over a period of budget. So
Without
it's more-
a doubt. Without a doubt.
And with the standard priority.
I think this is probably a very good example of any number of things that I'm going to discuss tonight that is, I think, screaming for us to do a multi-year budgeting cycle because of things that are coming up that we can't just budget in 1 year increments. We have to prepare.
So I think one of the reasons I chose
Okay.
one of the reasons I chose this was we do have a lot of most money, and this is a most eligible project. The quality of life dynamic for a lot of people that are using our parks makes this what I would consider one of the priorities for the town. So to be able to use just a portion of the most money, if we started doing 1 or 2 parks a season, to see how this is reflected by the township, shouldn't have a colossal detriment to any particular budgets right off the bat, but would be able to give us a sense of how much we want to go and disrupt the budgets going forward.
All right, so I think we have an action plan. We have, sorry.
I think we have an opportunity to do an honest study by Parks and Recreation to determine where they should go and how many they should be. And then we could go around and fill that need in an orderly fashion. It's the kind of thing that will be very clear if somebody looks at it. We need to have people who do that kind of thing look at it and then begin to fill the need.
Okay. Dr. Mayor?
A few comments. One, I agree with everything everyone said. I do think that from a quality of life aspect, this is imperative. So what I'd like to see on the deadline aspect is that we usually vote on our capital budgets towards the end-ish of the year, September, October, that we do spend the next 10 months on this. So if there's capital budget requirements, and sometimes with most there isn't, or obviously there's a lot of rules are detailed, we get this done. But also as a reminder, we already have pricing for the North Boatsy bathrooms. I know it's pricey, but we do have significant amount of new development coming in, which I'll report on shortly. And I think that the Boatsy Park is a very long park, and you're never going to have everyone with immediate access to a bathroom, but I'd like to see that quote put into the realm of discussion as well, even though it's not Sagamore, it's not the Phelps and whatnot, but to keep that proposal in mind at the top of the list for consideration for next year, which you've already said.
Mr. Manager?
Yes, I'll get some additional pricing, because that can vary from probably 60 to 80,000 to $500,000. But I already spoke to the superintendent of recreation, and based on activities and or permits issued in the various parks, we ranked them from Boatsy, Phelps, Sagamore, Hawthorne were the 4 parks that we used the most. The next would be Hammond, Brooks, Terhune, and Argonne, and then Coolidge, Mackle, MLK, and the lowest priority would be Hart Park and Andreas Park. And again, that's based on activities and or permits that the recreation receives. So I do have a list. Obviously, it's something I'll share with DPRAD, and I will also, again, come up with some other pricing for bathrooms. Again, I know they range from 6,000 to 8,000 to what I have here from 2018 to 450,000.
It sounds like we have council consensus and wanting to move forward.
Mr.
And then-
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah.
One of the things I want you all to think about again is how this will fit into the strategic planning mechanism, number 1. Number 2, we know we need it, but we have a lot of needs, okay? And we're going to have to look at all of those to see when we do them, how we do them, and how long it's going to take to complete them over several budgets. We cannot continue to do what we try to do within the same budget. I understand this has been on for a while. I understand that. But I think after we get done this evening, see a potential for a planning process, this would fit right in, and there would be no delay.
Okay, sounds good. All right, next item is Housing Authority by Deputy Mayor Schwartz. want to explain what that is?
Yes, Bill Rupp special because I've heard, we always heard with low-income housing, with the low-income housing affordable contract seminars, that we have to open it up to the tri-county. We've heard from our various stakeholders that we need to get our people to register. We've heard this a lot, especially Councilman Pruitt and myself, and Councilman Travan at the last meeting. We were also told, and that's the point I'm getting at, that the only way to avoid this is if we do our own internal bonding and create our own internal housing authority. So I did some rough math and quick look, speaking to a few people, and I heard that may not be the case, that while we may be able to do it, there's on the downsides, there's a Bergen County Housing Authority, there's upsides and downsides. What I was hoping is that we can get an opinion paper from your firm, basically talking about the pros and cons of a housing authority. And, and so we can sit there and say, wow, this is great, but hey, we don't want to bond 10 million, or wow, this can't be happening anyways, don't ever mention it again, we can move on. So that was my request to our council on that, if I can have
So your basic objective is to try to keep our inventory in-house. You need to try to make sure that the people.
We were told we can't.
Right, but I'm saying
we
that's
call
the
media.
objective.
And the objective is to have the pros and cons, a legal opinion on a housing authority. To potentially go with that if we can keep the inventory in-house, correct?
I like that.
Okay. Do I have 4 people that are in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll have a new item listed that you said we can do, but I'll wait my turn to the end.
Okay. Review the impact study, Councilwoman Romney Rice.
Yes, so I know that we were presented with the extensive report that was done back in July, but I just wanted to know if we really had any conversation regarding it. And, you know, I think we bring back to Jim's point about a strategic plan, so that we always are looking at things in a comprehensive manner. And I just wanted to know, you know, going forward, are we looking at the strategic plan? I know that we got a copy, but I just didn't recall of actually being doing it at the council. So I just wanted to know if that's something that was planned, or we're taking that into consideration as we move forward. Do we know that the Board of Adjustments or the Planning Board hasn't reviewed it, have they discussed it? So I just was curious.
Yeah, I think that we did the study, and there were recommendations made, and the question is, what are we gonna do with it?
Yes. 1 second, Mr. Mayor.
In this
For those just joining, this is a council retreat. It's a little more loose than a regular meeting. You see some people from the audience brought food, some people from the public from up here brought food. I got some extra coleslaw for David salad, and welcome to it. That's why, just forgive our loose, but that's the objective. Russ, go ahead, I'm sorry.
As recently reported, we had a meeting, a 2-hour meeting with county engineering to discuss many of the traffic calming issues along Teaneck Road. Dr. Pruitt was present for that as well. We provided the county with many suggestions. They also provided some suggestions. Nancy Dargis has informed us recently, over the past week, that the county is applying for a grant for Teaneck Road to cover many of the items that we discussed at our meeting for traffic calming. So hopefully, money will be generated from that grant, and we can implement some of those traffic calming measures along Teaneck Road.
But to Councilmember Rice's request, did the planning board, Board of Adjustment get copies? Do you know if they reviewed it?
I don't know.
I'll answer that. Yes, the planning board was formally given it. It was they were told that the council wanted them to review the master plan. They had a special meeting, a presentation by their attorneys on the master plan, and the planning board has opted not to take any action. There was the document that the planning board was given that I just asked our attorney to confirm he can distribute to the council, because I'm not sure how that works in terms of the board hires their own attorney. Can we submit that to the council for their review? To this council, the planning board's internal legal opinion, and then his presentation was made in public. But the document that he put together, can we just confirm with Mr. Hireman that it can be distributed to the council?
I'll reconnect with them what my preference might be for him to send it to me, and if I agree with it, then I can share it.
Okay, fine, I don't want to violate that.
It's an agreement, so that's why.
One other comment, Ellie.
Yes.
She talked about the impact study. Now, there were 2 impact studies. One was the traffic, which hardly has to do with Teaneck Road. And the other one was the impact of State Street developed, and there was a lot of recommendations in that. And the question is, what do we do with them?
Okay.
Did that go to planning?
That did not go, the traffic, I don't think was given to the plan to review. Is that something we want them to
Is there
review?
any objection to giving it to the planning board to let it have it?
My question is, we spent about, what, $10,000? 20? Okay, I stand corrected. $20,000, and I'm just curious as to what was the plan and intent to use that $20,000 investment towards. So, being that we did it, I think it behooves us to make sure that our planning board and board of adjustments particularly have access, review it, and not just sit it on the shelf, but actually discuss it, so that, for instance, you know, as Dr. Pruitt mentioned in the executive summary, there's lots of details regarding traffic and then just the impact. And as we move forward, it just makes sense that those advisory boards take into consideration what we spent the $20,000 for.
I'm not exactly sure about if the Board of Adjustments is allowed to do that, I'm not a lawyer, in terms of if they're looking at each individual study, and maybe someone else can answer, are they looking at our impact study, or are they looking at the traffic study for that project? I don't know about the Board of Adjustment, but the planning board, when you see their 4 or 5 page report, you'll get their full understanding of what they did and how the planning board said that while the areas may need to be rezoned, which is what the impact said, we had to ask the planning board to look at the overall master plan, and that's what they said. Because in short, there was already a 2017 revision of the attorney and the board voted on or agreed with them that they do not want to proceed with another reexamination. We'll get the report, you'll wait on that report. Hopefully we try to get that done before next Tuesday's meeting. That'd be great, so that we can circle back if you'd like to on next Tuesday's meeting and hear this.
I just want to revisit what was our intent with this $20,000 expenditure.
Our intent was to see what the planner said. What the planner said was that we should probably rezone certain areas. And I believe that's what it said. I don't look out on the front of the paragraph that talked about we should be rezoning, for example, the State Street, Queen Anne Road area. That was the part, my takeaway. I then asked, and the board and the planning council asked or agreed to have the planning board review the entire re-examination aspect if they want to proceed with a full township rezoning, to which they said, re-examination, to which they said no. If you want to carry this.
Did they say, I guess I'm unclear why they said they didn't want to look at the master plan. I'm not talking about.
It was actually more than said, it was a written report by their attorney, which they agree with. Let's get that out to the council, if that's allowed to be, I'm sure it is. And then if we want to carry this to next Tuesday, once you read the report and see what the report said by the planning board attorney. Can I make a couple comments?
Yeah, go ahead, Council.
So one thing to Councilwoman Romney Rice's point, one of the functions that I'd like to put on the list of things to get for next year is there's a report that the Board of Adjustment is supposed to put out every year. About 10 years or so, it hasn't been done, but I want to kickstart it again. That lists recommendations for the council of things that change based on things that have come before them. The typical examples are if they get a lot of variances for side setbacks for generators. 20 years ago, there were noisy things, you didn't want them near a house, now they're quiet. They keep saying yes, yes, yes. They put in the report, we recommend you change the setback. We don't need people to automatically get a variance for this many feet in. One of the things they can do in that report is take a look at the information and decide if there's a need based on applications they've had over the year. Deputy Mayor Schwartz is absolutely right. They can't take it into account during applications, but they can take it into account when they give us this report for a global view of what they want for the year. The second thing I just wanted to mention, I'll leave that for later.
Okay. All right, yes, Dr. Brooke.
Yeah, I think that the impact study was a two-part thing. One, in terms of the State Street area, the consultant talked about lighting, crosswalk, sidewalk, traffic pattern, pedestrian safety. All of those are the township of Teaneck responsibility. The traffic study for Teaneck Road is a county issue, but there are things in the impact study that we're responsible for. And the question is whether we move forward to take care of those particular concerns or ignore them.
Okay. Maybe we may have a list put together of the items that the council is responsible for and circulated. Okay, next, update status of current development projects. Councilmember Romney Rice.
Yes, I just wanted to, we're looking at projects that have already been completed, like the Avalon Bank, Teaneck Square, just to revisit some of the things that we had made mention of, like, making sure that the status of the affordable housing were in place, the tenant occupied of those buildings, current incomes received to date, projected annual incomes. Just as we continue to move forward with development, I thought it would be nice to just take a look at, are our current projections, have our previous projections been met with the current completion of these projects? So I'm just wondering if there's any information available.
Doug, is that something that you can put together, maybe with deputy reports, as far as getting the information from the tax assessor?
So where we are now with regards to recent developments, or ones that are already up and occupied?
Yeah, I'll work with Lisa with that, Deputy Mayor, and I can give an update to council on 6 properties that are either completed or under development right now, if you wish.
Yeah, good.
Avalon Bay, the TCOs have been issued for all but the 3rd and 4th floors of the building. There's only, according to the construction officials, a few small items to be corrected before a final walkthrough is done, and that's at Avalon Bay. When they had that grand opening, I believe they said they were at 69, 68%, so I'm assuming that's probably more in the upper 70s or 80s right now since the grand opening. 1475 Palisade Avenue, the TCOs are up through the 6th floor. We're holding off on the TCO for the 7th floor due to some code issues with a few of the HVAC system. 1500 Teaneck Road, the work has been.
What's the residency?
I checked, that's close, it's approaching 70%, but that's not the building, the occupied floors. So it drops down to about 56% if you factor in the 7th floor. And I'll supplement your report with the financials.
Okay, good. 1500 Teaneck Road, that's been progressing very well at a good pace. The majority of the rough inspections are complete right now. The sheetrock and the finishes are being installed as we speak. New Bridge Road, the footing and foundation is complete. The inspections were done. The survey, which has been reviewed and approved, additional applications for the remainder of the work and the plans have been received and reviewed. And we're waiting on a letter from the architect and the engineer for one item. 1280 Teaneck Road, footing and foundation was issued and inspected. The framing of the structure is being performed. Foundation location survey was received, reviewed, and approved. The partial plans and applications have been submitted.
What's 1280 Teaneck Road?
It's a 6,000 square foot commercial building.
That's the shopping center?
Yes.
227 Teaneck Road, again, that work is progressing. They're entering the final stages. Final inspection is scheduled for this week. That's the update.
So, yes.
Dean, just a question, in terms of
Louder, please.
where we are with the affordable housing, is that something that our agency that we're working with, that they can provide for us to let us know where we are with
Sure.
that?
I actually saw Frank Piazza at the League of Municipalities. I discussed this with him as well, about 1500 Teaneck Road. So he will, when that time comes, and the applications will be placed online, people will be allowed to submit the application. But I'm working on another seminar where he can come to Teaneck again, where we have a little larger forum because we've had quite a few people. The last time it was really standing room only, and so he is amenable to that. So I'm working with them probably before the application for 1500 open up, that we'll have something again.
Gym at the high school.
Yeah.
Also,
Do we have a time frame, just a ballpark as to when we anticipate that process being?
I would assume 1500 Teaneck Road within the next couple months.
So, Dean, that list that you just went through is excellent. It reminds me a little bit of the list that was put together by a tax assessor. Maybe we can merge
Sure.
Councilmember Rice's idea with that list and get an updated of,
Can we throw hotel tax in there?
Can I do my budget committee report, which is about revenue right now and all that? So on revenue, we'll start with 1475 Palisades Avenue. This is stemming from a meeting that the budget committee had with our assessor, going back about 5-6 months ago, and followed by a meeting we had with our CFO before that, trying to stay on top of where we are to keep projections if they're based on reality or they're not. 1475 Teaneck Road was paying approximately $81,000 in taxes for years. Beginning on August 1st, 2019, that annualized tax went up to $240,000, and effective 11/1/19, that tax bill is now at 167,000 times 4, so it's about $670 or so thousand, which is what we predicted. They got a $338,000 back bill that was paid on November 8th to catch up to those periods. So that building is pretty much fully assessed, right in line with what we thought. I don't know if that 7th floor is going to make a difference or not, or if that's factored in, but we did very well with that. And what we were able to do is we collected $338, about $400,000 more this year, and we're now adding to next year's budget $680,000, less the 80 that we always expected. So it's a net $600,000 there. 1500 Teaneck Road, though not yet even remotely close to being occupied, it's about 10 months away. Bear with me, I'll pull that up right now.
Whatever is there now is better than the road.
Whatever, yes, but I was doing the math, and I apologize. The website, you can type in 1500 Teaneck Road, but you have to go, it starts from 0. 1500 Teaneck Road was recently reassessed based on the construction, and here's the math. They were paying $27,000 a quarter, or approximately $108,000 to $110,000 a year. They've now received a new bill on August 1st, 2019, which will annualize them to exactly $296,000. So that's already a tentative bill because it's still in the approval stages. So we've just netted for 2 years approximately $190,000 additional per year. And lastly, Avalon, and I apologize if it's Avalon, it's $1 million, but it's going to take a second because it has the alternate address. Team Gia, how do you pronounce that word? Yeah, G-I-O? Giva? G-I-V. Got it to think. There's 2 tax bills, bingo. Their tax bill was reassessed on November 1st, 2019. They were paying next to nothing, and they were hit with a $353,000 back bill. They now are hit with next year's bill, which is $285,000 times 4, approximately $1.0607 million, coming up from about $200,000 before. So we've got the money for this year, and we got it for next year, and then there's some sewer allowance money that was also, we'll take care of that later. So we're looking at millions of dollars that are already into the books. So,
Am I missing something, or did you say the 1475 Palisade Avenue is more than 1500 Teaneck Road?
yes, 1475 Palisades Avenue is paying us a completed building. 1500 Teaneck Road is just as the framing is in place right now, non-occupied, non-finished.
So
obviously, it's going much higher.
It goes up.
That number, based on the original projections, was almost the same as Avalon Bay. We're hoping to net about $1 million additional per year there.
So I was just mentioning like the status of the development projects. Is it possible to have that information available and show the revenue report? Because I think that that's really great information, and just in terms of
This is like this all
but I
along.
think that this is important information.
If you give it this, I just was on the budget committee, was asked to stay on top of it because we didn't want to miss it. If this came out January 2nd, we couldn't get this money for next year, the year after. So we wanted it for now, for next year's budget. Teaneck and Forley, 227 Teaneck Road, it's 25 units, has not yet been reassessed, but that building, as you and I saw, is virtually done. And on the same development front, the corner of Teaneck Road and Forest Avenue, the southeast corner, the planning board approved a 10,000 square foot retail site last week at the planning board meeting to replace the car repair, car rental, gas station, the whole little car around over there. So that's just approved last
So
week.
for instance, even in a new project like that, when you demonstrated what the previous income revenue was comparable to the projected and then the actual, I think that that's very, interesting information and valuable information to the community, because then they see it helps offset sometimes the value of development, and it also overall may not impact our taxes going down. We can see the stabilization of it because we see the income and the revenue. So I just don't think that I don't think we're doing a good job of tooting our own horn in terms of what's out there.
I usually try to develop more, but I'll try to.
Or the developers or whatever, but the
Deputy
revenue.
Mayor Schwartz, did you include the most fees in those reports?
No, I didn't include the most fees. The budget committee or did get them, or the environmental committee did get the most fee numbers. Do you recall what it was?
I believe it's about 14,000 for Avalon and I think a little.
So why don't we put this together and form more? Put together some formal report.
The other thing is that, I think I missed it, you said the, Fort Lee Road, what was that?
Fort Lee Road was not yet reassessed. Last I checked, I'll check on
Like
that.
it's almost.
It is almost finished.
New Bridge or the 1280?
Those have not yet been reassessed. 1280 is literally just framing, was not even complete. I will say that, I don't know, Dean, what the information you have on New Bridge Road about the footings and foundation, but it looks like that first floor is in the final stages of being, or partial stages of being framed out. Maybe we can add for the next meeting, the building department fees for New Bridge and for 1280, being that they're out of the ground right now. They've made their
Why don't
initial.
you just add that as a column for each one of these projects?
Yeah, well, that's, yeah, and I guess
Meaning create, add the most money for each one, add the building fees.
Spreadsheet.
Yeah, the comprehensive fee, this is how much, this is the impact. Okay.
And this report is going to be part of a number of other reports I've talked to you about from the Finance Committee in terms of the council getting periodic budget figures, look like maybe quarterly, and we're working on a framework to get those budget numbers to the council so they can review on an ongoing basis.
Okay. All right, next, elimination of paper for applications and services, e-payments and pair with applications. Councilman Kaplan.
So I want to thank our clerk for getting a lot of the applications, whether it's applications for boards and various things to become electronic now. And when I go into the Rada Center and I see tables of, paper for all of the things, plus, everybody has to mail these things in. I mean, that was part of the impetus of getting the SDL system, which hopefully we'll get an update on soon. But once that's up and running, I want to make sure we hit the ground running and get rid of, or at least supplement, the paper applications that are out there so that everyone has access to submit electronic applications and to get the payment options available. I mean, there are times where I don't submit a $25 membership somewhere because they don't have an electronic form. I'd be more than willing to do it, and that's compounded, throughout society. There are people that don't even know how to mail a letter anymore, and we're losing a lot of people in terms of involvement and in terms of access to our programming.
So
which
your request is to try to continue.
Focus, when the new system comes in, this is not going to happen automatically. We need an active focus to create a digital,
Yes.
for everything that we do, a digital way to access it, supplementing the paper. I'm not, people that need paper, by all means, go right ahead and have it, but we need a better way to get more people in.
Councilman Kaplan, at the last PPRD meeting, I spoke with the superintendent of rec about the new Rec Pro software, and they think it will be able to do all of the things that we have wanted for quite some time. They're just installing it and getting the kinks out and looking at it, but that's going to be a PPRD item every month until we see it happen.
And that may be held up a little bit, the Rec Pro, because part of what we want to incorporate into Rec Pro is the acceptance of credit cards, and in order to do that, we have to do our RFP and for banking services. So that's really the holdup. I spoke to our IT people today about Rec Pro, and they're pretty comfortable where it's at. Again, the only component that we can't incorporate right now is, of course, taking credit cards.
Okay. Recodification of Teaneck code.
So
Councilman Kaplan.
we had discussed this last year, and we've made, a lot of
I
headway there.
We're gonna have your own personal
There-
retreats.
Well, we've been doing that, but part of it is, I'll let the clerk just give us a little update and tell us where he is.
So on the recodification, I'm working with our code servicer, General Code Services, which I have found out recently that they're actually, if not the only, one of the only codification companies in the state now. I'm working with him and Bill Rupp to try to put together an adequate proposal for the township. He provided us with a proposal not too long ago, but it was not adequate enough in the sense that it did not allow for an updating in perpetuity, which is what we want to try and do, so we can continuously update our code book with this company instead of trying to do it once every couple of years. So we're waiting for that proposal back from him. If they can't pull that off, then we'll probably just be waiting until sometime in the beginning of 2020 to update our code book all the way through all the legislative activity that we've done from 2019 to whenever that present time is.
And
when they
what that means in really simple words, we changed a garbage ordinance so that garbage men can't go up your block at 5:30. You go into our code online, you're gonna see old information because they're not updating this stuff. So residents who are being told, you need to abide by these regulations, can't really see what they are, which is why it's a big problem. But worse than that, what I'm doing with Bill Rupp to really,
What action do you need from us?
I need to get this on a priority for the council, that we make sure that we are updating these on a regular basis going forward.
So that will be done? Okay.
As soon as that proposal is provided by General Code, I'll be providing it with the manager and council.
You don't need to talk about it,
Let's
let's
move on, right?
Okay.
Councilman Dunleavy, your two next items, you want us to take this to the very end to make the presentation, or you want to do it now? No, that's good. Okay. Proposal for strategic plan, Teaneck Council.
Yeah.
Okay. Fixed water bills, listen, I brought this up before. This year was probably the most egregious out of all 10 or 11 years that we've been doing these sewer bills. I'm very much in favor of making sure that these businesses and industrial buildings and hotels pay their fair share. I think we've extended that to residential, which was never the intention. And we've also redeciphered the ordinance, whether it was written properly now and wasn't followed in the beginning, but I know what the intention was because I was the architect of this original plan. So I did speak to Deputy Mayor Schwartz, and I'm going to follow up with Lisa, but I just wanted to make sure that this is something that is still on our radar that's really broken and could blow up in our face.
Yeah, a few comments on that. One, several people have reached out to me that believe they received the wrong sewer bill. Most of them are because they have mixed-use properties that are classified differently. Because we now have a full-time CFO, he was able to really focus on this, whereas in the past, it wasn't necessarily followed to the T, something weren't billed properly. He took an aggressive approach to it, and now we should be forming a committee with any particular councilors that may have water and sewer experience in their life, and work to make sure that it's properly.
Let's meet with the CFO and see if we can come up with suggested corrections so that we can forward that to the council. I just said we're going to meet with the CFO and come up with a solution so we put forward to the council. All right, next is Alfred Avenue. I don't know what the status is with Alfred Avenue, if we're doing anything there or not doing anything there. You know, when we talk about development in Teaneck, I think we've always agreed that Alfred Avenue is really a very underutilized area, single story. The street itself is being used as a giant parking lot for 18-wheelers and lazy boy couches. You know, I don't know if it's something we should be putting on the front burner right now, but I just wanted to bring it up to see, Deputy Mayor.
Two things, the planning board and the council declared the Alfred Avenue, the initial property in the far western portion of Alfred, an area that needed redevelopment. I think that owner is working with with developers on seeing if he wants to go ahead or what method he wants to go ahead. He actually indicated that he's actually may want to come back to the council to reduce the size of the plans. If going back to the council is the right channel, he's most likely going to build less. We also have a grant application that's on file to redo the roads. I believe I saw that as well.
I was gonna say that's
And
another expense.
it's an expense, but we're hoping that if we're going to be building on there, that we don't build and then redo the roads.
Right.
The price we have is about $600,000, so we're really trying to avoid $600,000. So that's where the council stood, and that's where the developer stands as it relates to that particular piece. But all the action that the town had to take is being worked. It has been taken already. The quote, the grants applied for, and the developer got all the planning board and board of adjustment votes to start looking at this area and development for that site.
Next is,
So when you say the developer is looking, what has been determined that we're looking at?
We declared that area need redevelopment, and I believe it was approved for 300, was it for, I believe it was 300 units. It was, that was approved for
that was with mixed use of.
mixed use and with 50% affordable housing. It was 45 low-income housing, 255 regular houses. One of the questions is, will that ever be built? We have not heard back from them, the developer that it will be rebuilt.
Is that still owned by 6 different owners?
We're talking about the one initial site.
Okay.
The old grass.
The graph had built that one
Yep.
site.
The grant that we applied for was $837,000. It's a local freight grant through the Department of Transportation. We should hear by the spring of 2020.
So between the two of them, we'll know, is this site going to be redeveloped, or are we going to have to redo the roads to get the grant for?
Next is a bike share that I put on. I mean, it's something that I've been talking about for a few years. A lot of our neighbors are moving in this direction. One of our neighbors moved out of this direction. But I really think that it's a good thing to go. You know, unfortunately, they say that Teaneck is too small now for some of the vendors that wanted it originally.
But what we can do with Deputy Mayor, again, we did the RFP, nobody responded. I directed the purchasing agent to re-advertise. If we do not get any responses, and say we do have a smaller company that wants to come in, we can allow them to do a pilot for a year or so to see how it works out. So that's the direction I'm going. If we don't get any responses for the second time we
Could we
advertise.
send, if council's in agreement, could we send this RFP to like the top 5 Google responses, just to let them know about it? Is that legal to do, just to let them know that this is something we're interested in? Yeah.
Is there any opportunity for shared services, like looking at Hackensack or anything?
Well, this is the problem with the bike share program is that we can't get a company just to service Teaneck. They want a contiguous municipality, Burkeville, Hackensack, Leonia, they want to make money. They're not in to lose money, so Teaneck is not, I don't think, going to make them the money they want. And I've spoken to officials at NDU, most recently the executive at campus, and he's very much in favor of doing some sort of bike share and having a station at NDU as well.
So maybe following Councilmember Rice's suggestion, does it make sense to send a letter to 2 or 3 of our neighboring towns saying that this is something that we're interested in pursuing?
I've spoken to the Bergenfield administrator, Corey Gallo,
Right.
and
was he on board?
I think there's an interest there, so I'll aggressively
Could we
pursue it a little
Could we do
more.
an official request
Sure.
to Englewood, Leonia, Hackensack, Burgerfield, Pagoda?
Question.
Any objection to that official
No,
request?
I think that's a good idea, but I look at the bike share in New York City.
Yeah.
They have a tremendous infrastructure for riding bicycles. Bike share on Teaneck Road and other places, I'm not sure we have the safety requirements that we need.
I fully agree with it. I think, all due respect, I know you like the project. It's not for Teaneck. And when the bulk isn't there, the safety isn't there, the enforcement isn't there, it sounds nice.
I've been watching the city, to Dr. Crow's point, I've been watching the city create the infrastructure that would allow walking and biking and various things. And if we want to do that Vision Zero, which would cost a bloody fortune for the way our roads work, I think it would work, but I don't see it now.
You have to hire 5 new people to
Listen, I'm not the poster boy for healthy living, but, you know, it's something that I see that a lot of people seem to want to be part of.
You know, everything that we see everybody does may not work everywhere.
Aspirationally,
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you. I love the idea.
I think the use of the bikes in the city have very specific uses. They're using them to go to work. They're using them to go to the store. Because it's the cheaper way to go instead of getting a cab or walk. Okay, so they're a very direct thing. The only thing we would have it for is for active recreation. So one of the things that I would think if we continue down this road would be to start to talk about a network of bike paths. And if we're going to talk about network of bike paths, have that same conversation with the other towns so that we can work on doing that type of thing and then putting our bike stations where the bike paths are so they can visit all the parks.
So the question is, what is it, the chicken or the egg? Do we first see if there's any interest? We can't do it by ourselves anyway, so it doesn't matter. Does it make sense to first see if there's any interest from our neighboring towns? And if there is, then we can decide whether or not we even have a location that we could put it. Maybe we could put it in a business district.
I saw some kind of publication, I think, from Kaplan and also from Inglewood, where they're trying to extend the walk path
Yes.
into
Overpass.
and Overpass Creek. I mean, there may be some recreational possibilities, but as far as riding up and down the streets, I don't see it.
Okay, so I just need some direction. Do we want to see if there's any interest from the neighboring towns? Yes? Okay, so Dean, it sounds like the direction is let's have an official request to the neighboring towns, but even if there is interest, we have to see if we want to go to the next step. All right, welcome to Teaneck Signs and Slogan. Years ago, we had those 2 or 3 welcome to Teaneck signs put up, one by DeGraw, one by River Road. I forgot what the third one was, maybe a smaller one by Teaneck Road, but I don't think so. But I think we should consider putting them up again, even if they're not so large, smaller wooden ones, just so people know they're in Teaneck, especially now that you have the beautiful Teaneck Road starting, you know, they're fixing it up.
Isn't there one already planned in that road, at one end of that particular?
So, yes, there is, Dr. Pruitt. I've been working with, is Joyce here?
Yes.
It's Joyce. We're trying to come up with some slogans for a sign at the northeast corner of Teaneck Road and Robinson where we have the easement. And I think I sent email to council to give that some thought as well. So we're getting close to that point where we should make a decision on the slogan for the sign at that corner.
I
And
think
before the ground gets
Councilman
too cold
Dunleavy
for us.
had a good suggestion, maybe we could list it on the next council agenda.
Okay.
Councilman Dunleavy, maybe just share with the council again, so that, or give it to Doug, so that.
Which sign are you talking about?
The one for Teaneck Road, that's just one of the signs, I was thinking more signs, you know, with other.
You're talking about the metal ones? The metal ones we can make.
I was thinking about smaller, or small wood ones, like some of these other communities have. People know that they're.
Okay, no, I know.
Sandblast,
Like the,
you know.
with one at the top of the style.
Yeah, and then the question is, I've seen a lot of these towns actually have a little slogan, you know, town in motion, we love our residents, something.
Well, again, if we come up with something that we can agree upon, again, it's probably something we can.
Okay, so
design.
then can I ask if everyone's in favor of this concept? If you could maybe submit 2 or 3 suggestions, and then the January meeting will discuss and vote on those. And certainly residents are welcome to submit suggestions to the
I mean, I think this is,
You know, Deputy Mayor
I
Pat.
think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. It's not budgeted. We're going to be talking about a strategic plan, which may have a slogan in it, like a vision or a mission and other things in there. So while I'm very much in favor of doing the signs,
The other part, yeah.
doing electronic signs, we can talk about that later. Just let's start to get our ducks in a row as to how we're processing our very, very good ideas. That's all I'm saying.
Councilman Calhoun
Yes,
on this.
Councilman Calhoun.
One thing I just wanted to ask for an update on the digital sign by the, as long as we're talking about signs, on the municipal green, where it was taken out. And second, we did in the past have a contest kids involve everybody else for our sign, and that's how we wound up with a.
Dean, did you mention the digital sign?
Yes, that was the plan for 2019 capital, but that was taken out before we did the bond ordinance. Generally going to run about 65,000, 70,000. We had the spot location on the municipal green, but we did not keep it into the 2019 edition. I had a perfect spot for it that can be seen from both north and south Teaneck Road and east and west Cedar Lane.
Just to close the loop on the sign thing that I brought up, the other part of the signs is not just the welcome to Teaneck signs, but also the wayfinding signs. When you go out to Route 4, Teaneck Road this way, Business District, Holy Name this way, you know, and that's something that maybe we could possibly even ask Holy Name or FDU if they would want to sponsor. But I think the first step is there 4 people that are interested in getting pricing for those small wooden signs? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the second step is where would we put wayfinding signs as well, and then we can put the whole package together, run the contest, and then ask Home King or FDU if they'd like to sponsor it. Does that make sense?
And if they don't, that's good enough, or?
Yeah, if they don't, then it's put an offer, I agree. Sounds good? Okay. Carlton Terrace Street renaming. Oh, one more. Sorry.
That's good.
Just one more in a second. I believe Joe Davis's house was sold at auction. I've suggested in the past that we use most money to just acquire it, knock it down, and keep it as an open space. Is there anyone who's, I think for the last 6 years, 8 years, 9 years, residents have been living next to this boarded up house. And, you know, any, I guess.
Is it an area that could be a pocket park? Or?
Yeah, as I was saying, just a pocket park, just a simple open space.
Jim, what does PPRAB think about that?
I'll let you know probably around 8:30 tomorrow night, because I'm meeting with them tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's Joe Davis' house, where we did.
Yeah.
Alpine Drive.
It's in a residential neighborhood.
Vanilla Alpine, correct.
One of the best people in the new house there, leave it as a residential.
I am with Dr. Pruitt.
What, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We want to leave it as a residential property. We can do the taxes, one thing, and it's what belongs to that neighborhood.
Well, I think if I'm reading PPR, it'd be right, what the first thing I'm gonna be asked is, what do the neighbors think? Because they're gonna be right next to the property.
So the question is, do they want to live next to a nice open green grass? Or do they want to live next to a boarded up privacy?
But it was sold.
Sorry.
I imagine that comment was, this council thought about this when it was not sold. Being that it's now sold, I imagine that the buyer's not going to do this.
They don't go down.
And for what it's worth, I mean, when I was on PPRAB, they were not in favor of these pocket parks. They sound good in theory, but what it winds up being is just an alleyway with grass in it between two houses.
And the community with the kids are screaming outside my house all night long, and public works.
Yeah, I mean, plus it's an ongoing expense. We gotta mow the lawn, we gotta take care of it. I mean,
Right, I'll bring it up, but Mark's
It was a great idea,
good,
but
it's already sold.
I was just suggesting some more open spaces.
I think the council's cool.
Right.
Okay,
Deputy Mayor.
and following with our policy on the honorary street namings, I'm looking for 4 nodding heads to, I believe that's the policy, to do a 90-day street renaming of Carlton Terrace from Palisades Avenue to Queen Anne in memory of Harold Gellis. For those who do not know Harold Gellis, he's a was probably 50, 60-year resident that passed away in February. Took care of everything on that block and many other things throughout the neighborhood, throughout the town. And many people here have known him, and I've had tremendous support on that block. So I'm looking, is there a policy for not against?
Was this a neighborhood request? Did we get letters?
Yeah, this is from the community request, not just immediate neighborhood. Community droves. And as a matter of fact, we're going to come out tonight, and I said I don't think I'm going to face much opposition that we need 20 people out here tonight, as much as we love to have them. People have asked that to be a permanent change.
So is there, I'm in favor, is there 2 other members?
In favor.
I don't have a problem with how it's
9 days.
house for 3 months. There's been quite a bit of interest in naming the street for the Ivy Brothers permanently.
I think we should discuss that right now.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's the topic of discussion.
Dean, in the current policy that you have that you shared with us, I don't recall if there's a piece there for what process you do for a permit.
So there was a recommendation.
There's not a component for permanent, and my feelings is that if we're going to do something permanent, that person or entity really has to have made a significant contribution to Teaneck, and that's my feelings with it. Otherwise, it should be kept at, I think it's the 90 days that's in the policy.
I think, not to disagree with you at all, if Einstein lived on the block and didn't do anything with Teaneck, could he get a permanent recommendation?
Or a Yankee player?
No, I'm saying that the Isley Brothers are internationally known, and they promote the idea of having company Teaneck. That's a pretty heavy reason.
Henry,
for a permanent thing.
the reality is it takes 4 votes to change the name of the sign or to change the street. It takes 4 votes to make it permanent.
They have a
So
temporary sign
there's
now,
4
right?
people, they have a temporary one right now, I don't know, I haven't heard
They have a
anything.
temporary.
Not the idea. We're gonna do something for them relatively soon. I think they're coming
So,
back with tour.
here's my suggestion, why don't we move forward right now with the temporary one, let's see what type of pushback, and we'll find out. He was a bad neighbor, and he didn't, give back anyone sugar or milk when he borrowed it, and then let's see what happens. Does that sound good?
No, I like that we put it up there. We can always start the conversation at D5
Yeah.
and say,
Henry, are you okay with that? We'll move forward with the 90 days. Let's see what type of response that will be. Yes.
In reviewing this, I found that New Orleans had a significant policy regarding this. Can I bring it back to the council at our next meeting?
Sure.
And then we can talk about having a separate policy for permanent ones, and we can switch from
I
one to
think
the other.
the policy is 4 votes, but
Let's see what he.
Well, the framework, I think, is helpful.
See, my concern with just the 4-vote concept is, let's say Mark at some point decides, I'm just going to, he wants to rename Cumberland Avenue, Dunleavy, okay? And,
what's the objection to that?
well, I have no objection, sir, but what's the criteria for taking down Cumberland's name?
You don't take it down, you leave the sign in.
No, we're
No,
at-
but then, no, I'm not talking about the 90 days, I'm talking about a permit. I'm talking about a permit. That part of the policy is a little bit old.
I think that's what there is 4 votes for, and if it's something that the public doesn't like, then they come out.
As much as I like to disagree with Mr. Captain, I think he should bring us what he has and talk about it.
And the policy that we have, it says the township council reserves the right to permanently display the honorary street sign.
Okay, good.
Otherwise, it's temporary, it's 90 days,
So
so.
we'll do that. Okay, sounds good. And do I have a 3rd or 4th for the Dunleavy Way family?
I got it.
All right. Jim, hit it. Doug, you have any comment?
Yeah, he's letting him like, we can name it or something.
Okay. All right. Everyone, what I tried to do is I tried to collect as much as I could. Everything we had done from the last, our last retreat meeting, put it in here, and I'll blow this up for you so you can see it because I know it's pretty small. All right. So, and I tried to put in there a status report on these. To see what we wanted to do. And then what I did was on all the things that I did find that were to process or I didn't have an answer for, I just brought them over to the 2020 tab. Now the other thing that I want to do, because we just received this from the manager, is he gave us a 3 or 4 page list of things that were completed and also in process that I would probably recommend that we add those to our list, so we have one place where we're looking at what's being done, so we have basically a tickler file for the year. So without objection, I'll do that and start to work on that. So, but some of the things, I mean, we've done a tremendous job, I think, in getting a lot of things done. It's hard sometimes to, I'm going to blow this up. How's that back there? Can you see that better back there? Okay. We've done a lot of things in the past year. And one of the things that I think we should put on for 2020 or beyond is a communications plan, because we need to get the word out as to the things that we are doing and doing it in a manner which people can digest and understand and realize just how much work we've been doing. I'll flip through these. Now, if anything is incorrect, please stop me and I'll change it. Because what I'm going to try and do is maybe use this as a tickler file and put in anything that we want to add. Okay? The new advisory board ordinances are being written now. I'm hopeful that we'll get them within the next meeting or two from council, from legal counsel. The field house should be completed. Road repairs are well underway and in process. Road repaving is an ongoing process. We do have now a map, and I know when we get the SDL software up, we're going to have a very interactive map dealing with this, dealing with many other issues that we can get. Township basement remediation is on its way too. Other township building repairs, bids are in process. The monuments on the township green, we've kind of kick-started that again, and we had a very productive meeting. This is about a month ago, Dean? Yeah. With all parties involved to make sure everybody was working in the same direction in terms of this project.
That's number 14 is now in process as of today. As of today.
As of today? Okay.
And that's a meeting being set up with the deputy mayors, the CMO, we're going to review, see what he wants to do. What?
We had parking development fund and parking lot locations. I wasn't sure what we were.
December 17th is our community forum on parking, and that's one of the items on the agenda.
I have something to add on.
Yes, sir.
In terms of the forum,
Yes.
I think that there are places in town that could be used for parking, that we've got prohibited parking. We should look at some of that. We may pick up 100 spots or 200
Yeah.
spots.
Will you be in attendance that night by any chance? Will you be there that night by any chance? If not, or if you can submit the list if there's a quorum here?
Yeah, I'm just saying that they should, while they're looking for parking, rather than just looking for parking decks, we should look around the town and see if there are places that we overlook that should be used for parking.
Absolutely. I'd love any suggestions.
Mayor,
Bill, invite.
how are you promoting your event?
the manager and I were just discussing that today, so.
My suggestion is, we did this once before, and obviously commuters are one of the largest people that care about this. And we actually flyered a lot of the vehicles of the commuters that are tucked in to some of these areas. So just a suggestion.
Do you hear that? Is that it? Okay, we'll litter. We'll litter the town accordingly.
Okay. Next one we had was explore opportunities, only name FPU. Certainly the resident issue took a lot of our time. I know Mark may have an update, you may want to share with everyone.
Yeah, that's on the agenda for next Tuesday. We had a settlement meeting in which the neighbors expressed their desires and what they want to see from the hospital. The takeaway was the hospital was going to submit 3 schematics based on the feedback they got. Those 3 schematics were indeed submitted by the hospital to the neighbors on Monday morning. Tuesday on Monday morning. The neighborhood mentioned to me there's quite a few things they were missing from that they felt wasn't what the meeting was spoke about. So I'm speaking with our manager and our attorney who are there to get our understanding. But I've asked the neighborhood by next Tuesday to please counter-propose to the hospital. Thank you for your 3 schematics. Number 1, we want to see X. 2, we want to see Y. 3, we want to see Z. And to move that forward. So that's moving forward with settlement talks. The best part about the settlement talks is it looks like no one's going to walk away happy, and that's how you know it's a good settlement.
Okay. Working with Chamber of Commerce for business enhancement. I've had several meetings along with Councilman Kaplan and I. We're trying to get them to bring some people to the table to try and start to have a very frank conversation about the future of our business communities. They have to get back. Yeah.
So for this, I mean, council made a big step by doing that new development officer. And I'm thinking maybe that you could introduce that person to the Chamber of Commerce. And
Excellent idea. We'll do that.
Because like the one comment that we heard recently was how do what was it, Dean, how do stores find out about the ribbon cutting?
The ribbon cutting, when there's a new business that opens up that we want to incorporate community development into it, all sizes, so everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
Question also, are we working with the Cedar Lane State as well as the Teaneck Business Alliance in relation to that?
The answer is yes. I believe there are members of the Cedar Lane Alliance in the chamber. Am I wrong?
Yes.
I am wrong.
Cedar Lane has Larry Bauer, who represents Cedar Lane on the chamber. I don't know. I'm just talking from
No, but
my knowledge. I don't know
that's
about
also a good opportunity to develop.
Absolutely. And frankly, the way I operate, I would rather all of them in the room at the same time, if possible. Okay? So whatever information you can give me, and we can bring them in for the next meeting and make sure that they're there and start to have this conversation. I'm very concerned, I don't know about anybody else here, but I'm very concerned about the business community here in town. We have to do things and look at things differently, I believe. I don't think I have the answer, but I think we have to start the discussions. Anybody else?
And by the way, Cedar Lane is losing the 99-cent shop.
Yes.
But Teaneck Road's getting another.
Cedar Road's getting $1.
That's, the lease hasn't been sold, but the redevelopment of the southeast corner that I mentioned, put at 10,000 square feet, was mentioned at the planning board, was a single use, and the zoning board only approved it for that type of development because of parking for that, for $1 or something. But on Cedar Lane, there's been heavy interest as for the landlord, and a lease will probably be signed in the next few months for that space.
Okay. So that's what I had for through 2019, or through now, present state. So now, I carried over everything that I thought was not completed, or was in process or didn't know, and I brought it over to the 2020. There may be some things that are done, and let's see what you think of these. What I did on this list, instead of just the completed, I'm looking at the end of 2020 status, because I think there are some things that we have to have reasonable expectations for that may be in process but not done by the end of 2020. Okay. Township basement remediation, I believe manager told us it was probably a 2-year event, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Road building repairs, it sounded as though we would be able to complete that in 2020. Am I being optimistic? I'll take that as a maybe.
Which one?
The road building repairs.
Actually, we're going to be awarding the contract at the December 10th meeting, and that work should begin relatively quickly.
All right.
And
So
that's for the roof, facade, and I think a few windows with that.
okay, so we'll keep that as a goal of being completed, okay? Monuments on the township green, continue to move the process forward. I don't think we can put an absolute timeline on it. Water sewer fee revision,
That works out.
okay, we'll get that, we'll take that out. Parking development fund,
Can you just drop down and see what else is number 8, so I can combine and go to additions of those, sorry. Okay, so 5, 6, and 7, personally, I think should all be generally combined. I mean, it's loosely. And developed, yes, obviously not completely, it will be developed for 5, 6, and 7. Now, again, 5 may be, Dr. Pruitt mentioned parking garages. The initial multiple meetings that we've attended really point to that not even being a financial possibility. So these are really, developed maybe one step too severe, maybe one step below that. Plan and be considered almost, that's the, about developed. The other two, it's going to be tight for developed, again, maybe one step below developed. Because what we're looking to do on December 17th is get as many community people as possible, start literally letting them speak first and then do working on the takeaway. So to have a 13-month finish completion seems a little tight.
okay?
Jim, just a quick question.
Yep.
Will this be available for the residents on the website? Do you know, make this available once we've gone through this?
My expectation would be, because of what Dean gave us this evening, just before the meeting, I want to include all of that in there and try to find a little bit of framework for it. But then my expectation would be, yes, we can put this up on the website.
Because some of it is on the agenda, but not everything.
Right, exactly.
This is not on the agenda.
Yeah, no, there's a number, there's many things on his that are not there,
Right.
that I didn't pick up. Okay. But yes, I think it should be up, okay? Again, explore opportunities with Holy Name and FDU and the Board of Ed. I think with Holy Name, hopefully with this being taken care of and hopefully a little bit more time elapse from the back and forth of this negotiation, that maybe we can have council feel comfortable in starting to talk to them again about certain issues. What?
And when you reconfigure the listing,
Yeah.
why don't you have one list of projects completed, projects developed, projects in consideration? I mean, so that the
Sure.
list is solid for a particular category.
Okay.
And then we can see where we really are in terms of one list that we want to focus on.
Okay, sounds good. The Chamber of Commerce in my last meeting with them indicated they wanted to partner with us to try and come up with some type of new business package of things such as possibly decrease permit fees for new businesses or streamline the process for them to get permits or other types of things. So they're going to be talking amongst themselves and then bring something back to me, and then if we can put something together for new businesses coming into town, we'll do that. Complete the Rutgers-Blaustein analysis. As you know, Blaustein School basically adopted us next semester. I'm going down in, I think, end of January to do a presentation to their graduate students. And they're going to kind of do a bit of a soup to nuts appraisal on Teaneck with the standpoint of what opportunities do we have in the future. And part of their process is going to be to also include looking at other towns in the area. It's not just going to be looking at us, seeing what's going on and giving us an idea kind of at the 50,000 foot level of things that we might want to consider looking at and doing in the future for Teaneck. again, we need to look at the way we're looking at our town differently, and I think this is going to be a help. This is not going to be the panacea. This is not going to be the plan. This is going to be information that we're going to have based on these graduate students, and I forgot how many, there's 6 or 7 grad students, I think, in each studio, if I remember correctly. I've already shared with you a while ago, and I'll send it out again, the list of questions that I had sent down to Rutgers related to this project that they accepted and are actually quite excited to get started on. So it'll be a full semester project, so we should have the data back from them sometime in June, July. Again, strategic plan, depending upon what we discussed tonight and what we discuss going forward. You know my feelings about it. I think we have to look at the way we do our business differently and strategize better. Quarterly financial reports to council. We've been in discussions with Isa and the manager about coming up with a formula, or I should say a form or a way in which to present current state budget activity. And I know he's still working on it. I know he's still occupied right now. But nevertheless, did he send out the DVD? He did?
Yes.
Okay.
Friday.
10 days ago.
Oh, okay, all right. Did we send something out? Okay.
I figured everyone knew. Adam Isa Abbas.
Adam
Isa Abbas.
Isa Abbas.
Ask you to pass that on.
Oh, that's great.
Give them 2 mouse pads.
Implement new software, and that's also in process, and hopefully the second quarter will be reasonable. Number 15 has come up a little bit lately with respect to those little natural darlings that fall on the ground. In talking with some of my colleagues, I think the best way to handle this is that a couple of council members, along with the manager, DPW, and whoever else the manager feels should be brought in on this, to start to have a discussion on all the possibilities, okay, of how to handle this problem.
For
Right?
next season,
Sorry?
for the deadline for next season, right?
The deadline, yeah, I put September, so that we have the plan in place, so that we're ready to go, hopefully by next year. Okay. The 125th anniversary celebrations, obviously that'll be completed, but I know that Dean is working very hard with staff on that, and that's moving forward. Update the township code. Doug, do you think we're going to get this done by the end of 2020?
That's the goal, hopefully way before that.
Okay. Explored shared services with Board of Ed and other towns. I had an opportunity at the municipalities meeting to meet with other towns, council members, and they seem interested. Everybody seems interested. There was a lot of presentation on shared services at the municipalities. So I know that Dean and Superintendent is setting up the meeting for the Board of Ed with us, and then we're going to sit down and start to see where commonalities occur and where we can start to maybe either share services or maybe do other things of a value-added nature for the township together. And then we'll move on hopefully to other towns. Bergenfield is one that I know is interested in talking about different services with us.
That's scheduled on the 12th, meeting with the Board of Ed.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
What date is that?
That is on the 12th of December at 6:30.
Who's going
That's
to the
gonna
council?
be,
Me, Keith, and Henry.
it's gonna be down at the offices at 11 Point.
We're gonna be at their offices.
That's what I heard.
Okay. All right. And then the last one I have is what I want to talk about is a parks and recreation enhancement plan. You know, we get these plans from every year, looking at all this money, all this bonding, all these wish lists, and we don't have a plan. okay? Every year, it's whack-a-mole in terms of what is needed. Now, the reality is that most of the things put in there are needed, but we have to start to prioritize it. So I was going to start to have this conversation with PPREB and to see whether or not we can come in with some strategies to look at the parks in a little bit more comprehensive manner. Okay? And then the last one, which I didn't put on there, and I apologize, is the concept of having multi-year budgeting processes put in place. I think we have to start this. There are too many big budget items that come up in years hence that we know are coming that we can't pay for in 365 days. And it forces us to do some financial things that we may not otherwise want to do. So we need to take a look, I think, at looking at that from a multi-year standpoint, and hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more traction and a little bit more availability of funds, as it were, for the things that we have to pay for. So those are the things that I had for 2020 that I was able to glean. I'll clean up the list, and I will add the list to that list, the things that Dean sent us today.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. Before we go on to good and welfare, I want to turn to the manager and to the attorney and ask if there's anything that you feel we should be adding to our roadmap.
Yeah, I mean, I presented, I know it was late, and I apologize for that. 83 different items today that, since my tenure as manager, that we've either addressed, completed, in progress, or under consideration. To me, the priority in 2020 is providing a responsible budget to the taxpayers, improving the condition of infrastructure in town, the roadways, improving, I guess, the safety of intersections as well. And there's a couple of the little things, but those are high on my priority. The budget preparation to me has started. I'll probably have something prepared and ready for council sometime towards the latter end of January. The annual debt statement is due the end of January as well. The AFS is due on the 10th of February. And then we have our budget meeting set up on February 14th, 21st, 28th, and March 7th. And so that's kind of the timeline right now. But again, to me, right now, it's just trying to present a responsible budget to the taxpayers, and that continued services, maintains the staffing that we're at.
Double-digit zero.
Can we reduce overtime?
Through hires.
We probably can if we're up to a full complement of staffing, which we haven't been all year for police and fire.
Deputy Mayor, I was just saying, not getting into the litigation. We never predict what we're doing, so as far as that goes, but the one big thing that we accomplished, I think, this year up in the front was provides the entire township employment staff with anti-discrimination and anti-harassment training. That was, extensive, and every supervisor, every staff member was trained. During sessions, they're very interactive, a lot of questions, a lot of discussion. As you know, we've changed a lot and expanded a lot over the last several years, especially in New Jersey. And I think our entire staff is up to speed now on the state of the law and what they can do in place. So we hope to continue to find record that the township had for those 9 years of no employment lawsuits, and continue that record moving forward.
Excellent.
Question, so I just want to applaud going through the process and making it available, and I know that we did discuss making it available for council, but unfortunately the times were available, they were out during the day, so I don't know if any of my colleagues were able to attend. I was just wondering if there's any opportunity to ensure that we as colleagues
So what happens is there's actually still, I believe, one makeup session coming up for anyone who wasn't able to attend. Several council members did attend sessions that happened, and they also video audio, so any council member is welcome to watch the supervisor training session, I would suggest that's the one that the council should read.
So can you have that shared with council?
Okay. We're just going to go into the PowerPoint presentation. Jim, while you're about to load up, I'm going to invite any resident who wishes to have a sandwich to grab yourself a sandwich. So if you want. Oh, we have chocolate chip cookies? I didn't know about those.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go through it somewhat quickly because the meat of the stuff is at the end. I don't want this to be a educational program on strategic planning. But my sense from now being on the council for about a year and a half or so is that we need to get a little bit more organized in how we're looking forward. We're not looking forward. We're getting a lot of stuff done here, but we have to look forward, and we have to take the time to look forward, because otherwise forward is going to come, and we're not going to know what hit us. So I'm going to briefly go through these elements here, but I'm going to spend most of my time on what the process is that I would like us to undertake here in Teaneck. Teaneck is a $70 million corporation, and it doesn't have a strategic plan. Okay, we're just-in-time thinking. We do our budgets on a yearly basis. We try to respond to resident needs, but we don't have a plan. Okay, and when I say we, I mean the township. I don't mean just the council. I'm talking about the township. Okay. School districts, libraries, state of New Jersey and Bergen County have strategic plans. Various focus forms of strategic plans in different communities, financial ones, development, transport, rec, infrastructure, land use. A township strategic plan would encompass all of these and more. So this doesn't take the place of a master plan. The master plan may actually be one of the activities or the action plans underneath some goals and objectives that we may put together. So nothing that we have now currently goes away or is superseded by this at all. They actually are brought into focus. So why are we doing this? Well, it helps to set priorities, and you've heard about a couple of us mention that tonight. Focus energy and resources, strengthen operations, ensure that employees and other stakeholders are working towards common goals, establish agreement around intended outcomes, assess and adjust the organization's direction and response. This is not a one-time event and then we do this and then we completely ignore all these other things that happen. We have to be flexible in our ability to respond. Okay? And it also shapes and guides what an organization is, who serves it, what it does, and why it does it. Okay? We need a clear direction, have a roadmap, align the work to those outcomes, and be proactive. And I think this is the biggest thing, the takeaway I think we should have. We have to be proactive instead of reactive. All right? We can very easily react to stuff. Okay? But we have to be proactive in our approach now, I think. Because not having a strategic plan is like navigating in an unknown territory without a map. We're just not knowing where we're going. Okay? And to think that operating the same way will result in different outcomes, the definition of insanity. I'm sure many people have heard that. Okay? Business as usual will result in the same results. But setting goals aligned with our values, and that's a key point here, aligned with our values and our resources, will achieve the outcomes that we want. Okay? So we have to identify our key common values of the township, and I can tell you that every single person in this room has a different value that they would ascribe to this town. And that's fine, that's good. But we have to have the conversation about it. From those values, we have to put a mission together and a vision statement. And then from there, we can do goals and objectives and action plans that will be more meaningful and aligned with the resources that we have to solve our issues. And periodic reporting by council to the township. That's very, very important. So the values, the importance, the worth or usefulness of something. Statements of what we feel are all about the community. inclusiveness, we want everybody to be good cooks. Whatever the case may be, we have a value structure as to why we're here in town. Okay? What's our mission? Why does Teaneck exist? It's been here 125 years. Why does it exist? Okay? That's one question we may want to answer. And then vision, Teaneck will be known as, or Teaneck will be the town of choice for. What do we see ourselves going forward? Do we see ourselves as we're looking at ourselves now? Or do you have something in your head that says, no, I think Teaneck can be this. I think Teaneck can do this. I think Teaneck can be the leader in this. We have to look at that. Okay? And from all of that, then we can identify priorities. What is it where we're going to align our resources with? And then broadly set some definitions of goals as to what we want. So those of you who know me at all know that I love the Yankees and I love Corvettes. Okay? So Teaneck will be the world's Corvette manufacturer. That's the goal I want. Okay? And the objective will be that Teaneck will own a Corvette manufacturing plant. And the action plan for that is to get Chevrolet to build the Corvette plant on Cumberland Avenue in 12 months. Because I just want to walk to the plant to see the cars done. Okay? And what's the measure? Well, it can be any number of things. Number of cars built, how much is Chevy paying us in taxes, what is the outcome? Okay. So, here's my proposal for the township. It has to be resident focused. It has to give an opportunity to everyone to give input. Residents, council, advisory boards, township employees, Board of Ed, other stakeholders as we identify. Okay. So, my proposal would be for the council to appoint the Teaneck 2030 Steering Committee. 10 or 15 people made up of residents, council members, township employees, BOE rep, etc. There may be some people moving in and out of that based on what the needs are. Okay? It wouldn't be, I don't see it as a static group. Okay? But it would be monthly meetings. And I would propose that we can pose questions to our fellow residents in town very cheaply by using SurveyMonkey. Okay? So if we want to know what your values are, what is important to you, all right, we can get that input by putting up a SurveyMonkey, sending out the message to everybody in town to go there with the link and start to get the input. And then that steering committee can work on the input and cull the input and come up with some ideas. Okay? And then that group will create a working document for values, mission, and vision. And from that, I would envision us having both a township forum that's either televised or somehow communicated technologically to the township in order to review it once again. And then they will finalize the values, mission, and vision and bring it to the council for final approval. Okay? Then they would move on to the goals and objectives and kind of go through the same process. Again, using input from the residents, from all parties in town as to what they believe are the most important things, goals and objectives of our town. All right? The steering committee will then put that together, come up with a list of priorities, take each priority, formulate goals. And again, we can use forums, SurveyMonkey, whatever, to get this information from everyone in the town. Again, I would see at least one forum of presenting that back to the township in a forum format. But again, I think we're going to have to use technology to get that information out. The committee would then bring it to the council, and the council would approve it. Okay. At that point, a council subcommittee and the township manager would be formed and place all those current activities under the corresponding objectives and start to look at the metrics and the time frames for completion of that. Identify areas that need plans and metrics. Hold a forum, again, use electronic surveys where needed, and again, present that to council for approval. So what are we going to get out of this? What are we going to get out of it? Well, I think we'll have clear goals and objectives that we can prioritize our spending, especially the big items, over multiple years, and that would feed into some of the goals that we talked about. Periodic reporting to the council on the progress, so that the public can see how we're doing. The activities of the advisory boards can be tied to activities within the strategic plan in order to get other things done, and aligns our township staff with the council and its residents. But we would still have the flexibility, obviously, for emergencies. Okay? Just to give you an idea of how municipalities rate, I found this article, it's a little old, 2005, but basically, if you look at those numbers there, my things have worked this, you see a very high degree of acceptance to the strategic planning process by municipalities. Okay? So we would then look at it on a yearly basis, tweak it, change it as needed, realign priorities, and again, use it as a guide for budgeting. Okay? And I really believe that this is the way we have to go. I really believe that we have to have a township conversation about what it is we want and what we want for the future. This will get us there. It will take some work. But I think this type of process is probably the best process that I can think of that utilizes our resources as best we can, basically almost no money at all, to get something like this done. So that's why I'm bringing it to you, and I'm sure there'll be some questions.
So what's the process what's the process?
Well, the process would be, if I hear some agreement to move forward here
Is
tonight.
there any objection to finding 15 members to make up this group?
Just a quick question. First of all, Jim, thanks very much for the presentation. I think it was great, and I'm just reminiscent of being on the campaign trail and often talking about the fact that we don't have a strategic plan. But one concern is the visioning process, that I know that the community participated in that some years ago. And I think there would be some residents that may be reticent about participating, because one of the first questions would be, well, what happened to the visioning process? A lot of residents got involved, and it was placed in a book and found on a shelf.
Right.
So that's-
As I think I mentioned to you, that would probably be, not probably, it will be part of the materials that that steering committee would have as a reference to see what we now get from the township residents in terms of what they do and what they don't.
So that was my conversation with you. I think that would be also a great place to start, showing that we did do this process, and perhaps some of those things may have been accomplished, but I think that that would be a good starting point, so that people don't feel that that was a waste of time or money.
Well, I agree with you that I certainly don't want them to feel it's a waste of time. However, I also don't want it to be the driver, because that was then and this is now. And I want the community now to give the input. So certainly it can be, there's a reference, and certainly it can be used, and they may agree with certain parts of it, you know, at the end. But
Clearly, a strategic plan is something that you do periodically, so clearly we would be due for an update. But I just wanted to make reference to the fact that it's not as if we haven't done that before, so I
Okay.
just would hope that the community would know that we haven't forgotten about the fact that some of this was done. But the other part of it is in the sense of even some of the things that we started talking about tonight, like bathrooms in the park and all those things, as opposed to just being, the issue du jour, we're now driven by goals and objectives. And the fact that Dr. Pruitt had started us on this goals and objective process through the retreat last time, at least gives us a framework. And I just want to applaud Dean for, all the items that we're able to say were accomplished, so that it does, give the residents an idea of where their taxpayer dollars are going and all the things that have been accomplished, particularly items that have been near and dear to them that they've brought to our attention. But I think the strategic plan helps keep us on course, and it's things that what you put your money towards, what you budget, what you will actually accomplish.
Thanks, I'm trying to ask a motion. When was this vision?
2006.
2018 years ago?
Yeah, so for the record, I was involved in the process as well. I was myself, Jackie, and I forgot, maybe Warnke, with this council subcommittee. I don't know how much was or was not completed. We did use it as a little bit of a guide to reference, you know, it's still fresh. If you broke it out, we could go through it and actually see how much actually got accomplished. You may be accurate. It might have just been put on a shelf, or we might have used it as a little bit of a roadmap.
Yeah, I have a question for you, George. Having gone through the visiting process, what happened with that was the majority of the council changed. They weren't interested in following up on what was done in the vision. Now, this is a 10-year program. That's 5 councils. How do you ensure the strategic planning process continues to move forward rather than getting politically killed?
Well, I feel that the process can move forward because you're going to have yearly reviews of what this is. Okay? If a council going forward wants to kill it, to be honest with you, I can't come up with a reason other than something political that they would want to kill.
But in the process of this preliminary thought process, we can find a way to kind of ensure that it continues to move forward as we plan it out, rather than allowing the winds of politics to get it.
Well, I mean, one of the ways we can do it is if we find this process successful, we memorialize it in the process in an ordinance, and that's one way to do it.
All right. So what's the next step?
So,
You're wanting to
if I don't know if you want to do a formal motion here to create the planning process, and then
why don't you come up with a resolution?
I'll come up with a resolution for the next meeting.
This way,
Yeah.
it clearly defines what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Who's the makeup of the body? Who's
Mhm.
running? Who's going to be chairing this and driving it, and funding if necessary. And I believe last time for the visioning process, I think it cost like 40 or 70,000, but I think Puffin kicked in some of the money right now. Okay, sounds good?
Okay.
Good job, Jim.
All right, now we've reached the, any other members of our council or do you have any goals or objectives that you want to put forward?
Teaneck code, we are going to recodify.
That I know.
Timely and clean.
All right, so is there anything that you want to see? Put on our roadmap?
Not at this time.
All right, now we've reached the opportunity for good welfare. Anyone who wishes to comment, this is the opportunity. Do we have the timer? Somebody? Okay. Raise your hand, wait to recognize. Council may or may not respond to you, but we're not going to respond to you for sure until the very end, after we close. If you don't stay around or for some reason we don't respond to the question that you asked or the comment that you made, all of our phone numbers and emails are listed on the website. You can always reach out to any of us. You can certainly take the manager or the clerk's business card. The opportunity to grab a sandwich for after is also available. So raise your hand, wait to recognize, and see us progress.
Thank you, Deputy Manager. Howard Rose, I'm speaking not as a member of the Board of Ed, or as a member of the Planning Board, but as a very concerned resident and business owner. First, I just want to remedy a small oversight, which is a courtesy mentioning any elected official who may be in the audience. Gee, I only see one. Okay, thank you. You touched on many topics, and it's a good starting point. And I'm hoping consequently that you will allow more than one go-around of 3 minutes since there's so few people in the audience. I have no problem with park improvements, but I'm wondering about most money and what percentage or what dollar amounts are used for facility improvements, which is fine, and what amount is used for land acquisition, which was the initial need for that money being taken from taxpayers. Councilman Dunleavy seems to be voicing a fiscal plan that is midway between annual budgets and bond monies in order to pay rounded over time, but not lump sum in 1 year. So there's some good to that, and should be explored further. Low-income housing authority feasibility study, I applaud this. It's something we need, it's something that may even be very expensive, but something that's probably going to be at least cost effective in terms of the product that it produces, which is housing for our residents. Traffic on Teaneck Road, traffic calming. I'm just wondering, will it slow down what is already congestion? The longer it takes to get them through. I know we have a safety issue, but congestion is a real problem. Traffic study, why not share it? It's not a restricted piece of a document coming from the planning board. The township council does not need Oprah to get this information. It should be shared. We have a revenue of several $7 million coming from development, as Mark related, very detailedly. And I'm wondering, though, what are the additional township expenses that might be incurred as a consequence of all this development? So at least we get both sides of the equation, and then you see what the net amount is. Apps forms online will initially supplement paper. I wonder, a while back I had requested that some kind of a notice be put in with billing statements to the township residents, showing them how to get into the linkage of the net site. The more you can't be, I guess you can't be satisfied with 3,500 to 4,000 people on this net site in a town this size. Industrial community fair share, any pending reduction litigation going on right now that will impact what's going on with that. I know that we do get good amounts of money from commercial and industrial, but I understand there are some areas where it's being challenged. Alfred Avenue, why reduce potential?
Sorry, Mr. Rose.
Let me finish the sentence. Thank you. Alfred Avenue, why reduce potential of what can be done there rather than really build to suit within the existing parameters?
Excellent, thank you.
Do you have a microphone? Yeah, we have a hot mic right behind you.
Can I, before being time, can I respond to?
Don't trip, don't trip.
strategic?
If you could just incorporate it into 3 minutes, and like I said, if for some reason you're not able to get everything on, just email us, we'll make sure we circulate.
So I can respond to the strategic plan?
Whatever you'd like to say.
I want to use my 3 minutes for this.
Go ahead, it's part of it.
Huh?
The mic's not on.
If you could please incorporate it into your 3 minutes.
Incorporate it into the 3 minutes? Okay, I'll get the good stuff out first. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah, 22nd, Merry Christmas. So I won't be able to see those later. I'm going to start by congratulating Manager Dean Kaczynski for outstanding mayor of the year. He was nominated by the NJMMA, New Jersey Municipal Management Association. And he didn't pay me to say this either. He didn't know I was going to say it. He followed well in the footsteps of Manager Broughton, and I can see why he was mentored by Manager Broughton for his integrity, efficiency, and personal accountability. I want to talk a little bit about what I heard you say about the signs, like Welcome to Teaneck, when streetscape is going to be completed. I want to call to your mind, we're not asking for this, but on Route 4 West, you see, Welcome to Teaneck, a huge sign, right? And it's a fair trade community slogan, but Teaneck Road is not to be taken lightly because it is the gateway. And when you're coming off, headed north to Bergenfield, you're going through not trespassing, but you're passing through the business district, the Northeast Business District, and like we were saying, going south, you're headed toward the municipality, which incorporates the police, library, the African Memorial, Holocaust memorials and all of that. So we need to have a decent sign. Parking is still an issue on Teaneck Road. I don't know what happened at the planning board. I wasn't able to attend that meeting, but at West Forest Avenue, when you talked about those car places there, I was hoping that could become a parking lot, to tell you the truth, lawyers, because we don't have adequate parking. There is a parking lot adjacent to the, what is it, Presbyterian Church there, but it's not marked, as municipal parking. Right now, a lot of it is being taken up for the construction on Teaneck Road. What did I want to say? I wanted to say about strategic planning. This would have been wonderful prior to the development that we have going on in Teaneck right now. Because you talked about, Mr. Dunleavy, I appreciate that, you talked about inclusion. We were not included. We were told that it was going to be better financially for us with the construction of the developments. But I just have to get this off my heart that when I walk up and down Teaneck Road and see 1,500 monstrosity, there's different types of ugly. It was ugly before the development went up, yes. It's ugly now with overdevelopment.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to do this? Moving next to the council. I'm sorry, I want to just let this go down first.
I have some other things, but I'll leave them to the next meeting, which I'll do this next week. I'll just relate to the things that we have. Oh, okay. First of all, about the strategic plan, I thought it was really great. I have a concern about using electronic means only to get responses about people's opinion, because I fear that there are many people who are not capable of doing things electronically. And I think that there needs to be a way to get the opinions of those who don't traditionally respond to electronic things and do need a paper way of expressing their opinions. Councilman Kaplan, I liked your idea about knowing what variances were requested and which were approved. I think it should go a little further though. I think that it also should count how many of those in these categories were from private individuals, commercials, and what were the responses of the public to which ones were approved and which ones were not. In other words, also how many responses were positive versus negative. And that is able to be seen in the transcripts of the proceedings. And to you, sir, my question is about the codification. I understood, and I might be wrong, that the company that you're working with has to keep working with you to update it as it goes along. And if that is correct, what happens if this company, since it's the only one, shuts down for whatever reason? Is it going to be a process that Teaneck can do independently in the future? So if they move to another state, go out of business, or just decide to retire, that Teaneck doesn't suddenly say, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with this program that has programmed itself into obsolescence? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Basically, thank you very much for your presentation tonight on the strategic plan. Sure, my name is Denise Belcher, resident, and I'm speaking as a resident and business owner, not a member of the planning board. Basically, I wanted to thank you for the presentation on the strategic plan, because it's hard to believe that, to your point of one of your slides, that we are a township of the size and the budget that we have, and we don't have a strategic plan. To me, it seems kind of sad. But I think one of the things that I want to pick up on is what you said about including stakeholders. Stakeholders are so vitally important in terms of any type of planning, be it a strategic plan and a master plan. Because you want your residents, you want your business owners to have a stake in what the final outcome is going to be. And I think that we can learn a lot from that can be even applied to the master plan. I think that it's important for us as a township is to really recognize the power of our residents and our business community. And I think so oftentimes we overlook it and we're not connected with it, and we minimize the impact that business owners and residents have. So I think it's vitally important that we begin to really kind of incorporate that, not only in the strategic plan and in the team of individuals or the committee that you're looking to form, but also looking at it in other entities. Also, I think in you guys looking at matrices of how much development and how many dollars and what percentage of completion and so on and so forth. I think because you have two powerful boards in this town, it's important that the council receives feedback almost in the form of a matrix as to what has been approved, and the details of the approval. Because I think something gets lost in translation. And I think we have to really keep our eye on the ball when it comes to that. What is being approved in these boards in detail, both the planning board and the board of adjustment. And here again, I'm speaking as a resident, because oftentimes what we think is being interpreted is not truly what residents understand or business people understand has taken place. So it may be a good idea to create that type of matrix that gives you insight from those boards as to specific details of what has been approved and what the end result of that approval means. And I'm going to finalize this by saying that because we're able to receive that type of information, I think it would help the council to govern even that much more better. Thank you.
Any other hands? Chuck, you get to, yes, we'll get
Alan, Stone, Teaneck resident. We do already have a multi-year process for large projects over the upcoming period. It's called a capital budget, passed every year and covering a 6-year period. Unfortunately, rather than laying out priorities and moving ahead with what we genuinely need, this council too often focuses on bright, shiny, and expensive objects that jump the queue and for which little consideration is given to alternatives. The needs for sanitary and hygienic bathrooms across our parks is obvious, but it's the north end of OT that is most desperately underserved. The Pottyplex will serve the portion of the park closest to the sportsplex, but the north end is too far away. The users of the tennis courts, inclusive playground, basketball courts, northern baseball fields, swimming pool, and splash pad have been forced to use disgusting porta potties, or at times the even more disgusting male and female one-stall bathrooms in the TBO clubhouse building. It could have already been done with prefabricated units. Don't assume that most money is any more infinite than bond funds. There are also other priorities for open space funds, including, of all things, open space. If you want to see some of the challenges in Teaneck with capital budgeting, all any resident needs to do is look out the window and drive over Teaneck that will be turning into blocks of ice overnight, and it has nothing to do with climate change. The simple explanation is that the Department of Public Works does not get the resources it needs. Just look at capital budgets for the past decade to see that the DPW has not received the facility or the equipment it so desperately needs to properly do its job. Unlike the police and fire departments, the DPW can genuinely benefit from equipment that acts as a force multiplier. The trucks that are finally being purchased for the DPW in the latest round of bond ordinances are replacing vehicles as much as 30 years old And there are dozens of other vehicles well beyond their useful lives that are still in use but have spent decades decaying and rusting away at the DPW facility at 1600 River Road. New and functioning equipment can allow DPW workers to be far more productive. Imagine how much better the DPW could serve residents if they had spent one pottyplex of money, a unit of measurement equal to a mere $2 million, to purchase equipment that they had been begging for years and that would serve the needs of every one of Teaneck's 40,000 residents. As this council makes plans for the decade ahead, take the time to plan to deal with the problems that exist right now, ones that are happening right here, right now in Teaneck. Wants are infinite. Resources are limited. We need council members who have the wisdom to set priorities that serve the needs of the township as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Dr. Bowers.
Happily underlying everything you folks were talking about tonight was Chuck Powers, Teaneck, 1475, 1374, Kevin.
Take both.
Sorry?
Take both of them.
I will. Thank you very much. Wish all economics work that way. The commitment to transparency and incorporated in what Jim was talking about tonight is extraordinary. My problem is that we, on so many projects, don't get what we need in respect to that. The open space recreation plan was actually presented to you folks last spring. It was presented to the planning board on the 26th of July, and it's absolutely disappeared. No one has any idea where that document, which received universal support for the two boards to which it was presented, has no idea where it's gone. I keep on calling Glenna, she has no idea. I keep on trying to figure out, I raise the question, nobody ever has an answer to it. It's what will guide. It is in fact the element number 9, which is missing from your current master plan. I'm very happy that Mark Schwartz brought forward the idea of actually having a housing authority looked at carefully. To our east, Inglewood has one. To our west, Hackensack has one. Further to our east, Cliffside Park and Fort Lee have them. Oakland, which takes away 4 times as much county money as we ever do, with a population about the third of ours, also has one. There really is a reason why you have a housing authority. The reason is because when you start taking the community funds, which this council apparently, though how, we don't know, is planning to push into the building of 1425. I don't know where those funds are coming from, but we keep on hearing references to it. The mayor made reference to it last time. He talked about the fact that whoever the developer is, he will be going off to HUD in a year from now, which is why I won't get here to 2022. But if in fact we go ahead with that, we will likely have spent the funds, which we actually had a housing authority, could actually deliver what? All 40 of those units. We keep talking about the number of people from Teaneck who showed up at that pre-storm meeting. Yes, those are all people desperately looking for affordable housing. Most of them were Teaneck residents. But almost no chance that any one of them, or 50% chance only one of them, will get one of those 40 units at 1425. It's fundamental that we get transparency about what's happening there, and I have more to say about that. On the master plan, I want to point out, there was no vote, Mr. Schwartz, on September 26th to support Brian Ironman's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. All right. Yassine, bad and clean up, close it up.
Point of information?
Sorry, yeah,
Good evening, Yassine Koryani, Teaneck. First, congratulations, Manager Kaczynski, on your recognition, and congratulations to Risa on his newborn. And thank you, Deputy Mayor Schwartz, on your continuous responsiveness, especially with regards to this issue of the housing authority. The issue was brought up on Facebook several months ago, And it's a good thing to see that we are looking into it, and I think, and I'm going to second or concur with what Dr. Power said in terms of the necessity for that. I think our residents deserve affordable housing first. I have a suggestion for a goal for next year, which is looking into assessing the security at the recreation center in terms of cameras, in terms of doors, etc. I have also a few questions / recommendations about the strategic plan. What is the mechanism of implementation for that? And how is and what we saw something about a mission statement. How much authority will that have in terms of decision making at the government level? And how easy will it be to reverse a mission statement of the town or the strategic plan altogether? Also, how can we get a copy of the strategic plan, the presentation slides? And is it possible to get just bullet points about what you expect in the advisory board ordinance? And I hope the ordinance takes into account that not all advisory boards are born equal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Motion to close the welfare.
Wait, no, can I get information first? Can you have courtesy of extending this for another go around?
I can't. Okay. We have the motion of the welfare. Close the welfare. All right. Any opposed? Okay. Deputy Mayor Schwartz.
Okay, Mr. Rose, I took my notes from your comments, so I'm gonna go one by one. Most land, keep in mind, as we discussed that with the pocket park, very expensive to buy, to negotiate, you're taking things off the rolls, it's new to people. We do have, and I mentioned this before, 1084 Queen Anne Road, which was on the public record, and there's some closed session that we've been going back and forth for years on, but keep in mind that's why it's so hard to find that us purchasing land because of all those difficulties. The traffic study was put on the board. The study I was referring to was Brian Ironman's write-up on the master plan re-examination that was submitted to the planning board. But this traffic study that you asked about was made public, is on the website, and if the clerk can maybe send Mr. Rose an email where the link is of that traffic study. That was the separate impact study. The first impact in the traffic study is absolutely fully there. Development costs, the costs about the new project. So far, the managers reported at least once. I also followed up with emergency services this weekend. We've had very, very little, if minimal, cost of those new developments. And in terms of emergency services, police, fire, and ambulance, the manager keeps track of it. And so far, we've been able to do more with the same. We've not needed to add on that. It's also reflected in this was also discussed by the chiefs at one of the impact studies as well. Alfred Avenue, we approved 300 plans. The developer may choose to go down. That would be on him, not necessarily on us. And lastly, Teaneck Road traffic. I'm not sure when you've been on Teaneck Road. I'm in the middle of putting together videos that I've been taking. As I go up and down Teaneck Road, I show that my speed, I've been speeding sometimes, and I show the time of the day, and I show all the angles I've been taking in to go from Cedar Lane to Teaneck Road. So far I've done 3, one on the weekend, one at 5 o'clock on a weekday, and then one midday to put that together as well, because when there's accidents, of course there's traffic, but through ordinary driving, I haven't found any. As it relates to Teaneck Road parking, that's a private site. That private site was sold or in contract to be sold, and the proposed buyer came to us to rezone it. What you're asking us to do would be to buy that site, which is probably $7 million, to make more spaces. That's obviously not necessarily in the economic realm of things right now. I do notice that there's quite a bit of pocket communal lots throughout Teaneck Road. Some are occupied, some aren't. But right now, that's why that site was chosen to be redeveloped. There was a buyer and seller transaction to which the planning board was just brought. 1500 Teaneck Road was indeed involved with the community. The community made several changes and met with the developer. I actually attended one or two of them. Mayor Parker and Dr. Pruitt were involved in that as well, and that's why that project went forward with almost, or maybe I don't propose that unanimous support, because of the council and of the planning board, led by Mayor Parker, because of that input that the developers had with the community. And Dr. Powers, and when I meant vote, I mean, I think that what I meant was that the board accepted that agreement and chose no action. I don't know, it was nodding heads. There was no formal vote, but we'll get that report sent out once the attorney releases that. And you asked the building fund clarification, and I can't get the specific, I'll give it the best of my ability. Large commercial properties pay in over X dollars of development, pay a percentage into this low-income housing pool. The money we have is from the development of 7-Eleven and primarily from the hotel. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
That's correct. So that's where that money we're referring to is. Just to give you the general answer, we can look into that, the exact details, but that's where it's coming from.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pruitt.
Yeah, I just have a comment on Mark's comment about Teaneck Road. As you do your study, I want you to try to come out of the side streets, 26 side streets, to go along Teaneck Road at any time of day and see how long it takes you to cross Teaneck Road and make a left turn.
We go together. You time me, you time the wrong person.
We should ride together.
I want to thank Deputy Mayor Schwartz for mentioning a lot of the topics. Saves me a little time. One thing Ms. Eliyahu mentioned, talking about the comments people make in boards. One of the, I wish we had more people that came out to talk about things. For some people, they feel things are going great. They don't need to come out. Things are just how they want it to be. For others, if it impacts them directly, a lot of people, including elected officials, when a project was in their backyard. I remember people coming out for a specific project. I never saw them in a planning board meeting before. And that's a natural thing, and I understand that. I would love everyone to come out to all the meetings, but I would hesitate of including certain comments as indicative of the public when in fact they are indicative of people that are possibly more affected because it's closer to them or some other reason. As far as, that's for the planning board. The Board of Adjustment is a completely separate animal, and I hope that next week when we introduce a little sheet that a lot of other towns have, that we can talk to the public about how these boards operate. It's sort of like a mini trial, and people introduce evidence, and the comments people have are sometimes allowed at the end, but most of the comments from the public is testimonial in nature. And it's a very different type of thing to go and share. So I believe with great care we can incorporate how that works, but it's going to take a little bit more effort and energy to educate the public about how these things work and then to move it forward. I really want to thank Councilman Dunleavy. I think the strategic plan is a great idea moving forward. I think a lot of these things do fit into that. I think one of the things I wanted to mention regarding parking, I just started sending emails to a representative at Uber who has some ideas. They've been dealing with municipalities specifically about eliminating the need for as many commuter parking lots. We charge commuters for using our lots, things of the nature of charging 80 cents on the dollar and giving people a ride to and from their house to a central location where they can get on a bus. You can cut down on the number of bus stops along a given route, eliminate a parking lot, allow it to be used for either open space or, more importantly, for stores and various things. There are other options out there, and I think looking at what other towns have done is a good opportunity for us. And I really appreciate the framework that Councilman Dunleavy provided because it lets us look at what a lot of people are doing. And I think that combined with the Blaustein study will give us a lot more to go on in the future.
Thank you. Councilman Price.
Okay, so thank you first of all for the folks that came out to this lovely retreat. Even though it just seems like a regular council meeting, but it is important that your input is here. So I just want to also mention particularly I think Ms. Giddens, Ms. Yahoo, Denise all mentioned about the strategic plan and the process and making sure that we can have it inclusive, including making sure that it's not only electronic, so that we make sure that we can find ways to include all our stakeholders. And also the comment that was made about how our boards, particularly the Board of Adjustment Planning Board, how the impact really does affect our community and the council as well. So I mentioned this a few times about, we have agendas, we do receive minutes, but oftentimes it doesn't seem that we really have a check and balance as to whether those operations are being considerate of the master plan and how they actually impact our community. So I'm kind of curious as to how, even with the strategic planning process, how those advisory board members and planning board members particularly would be a part of the strategic plan and how it may impact their decision making. So I think that would be an interesting way to, as we proceed forward, to, while we can't require folks to attend, we would like to think that some of these members would be a part of the process. And also I'd like to follow up on a question that Mr. Powers asked about the open space recreation plan that he's been inquiring about, number 9 in the master plan. Is that something that we have access to, or do we just not, is there a way we can get an answer for that as to the open space recreation plan that he's seeking? And the other point was the voter center security, and I believe I saw it, Dean, on your report, that there was...
Yes.
Yeah.
Just quickly, we did security assessments at every municipal building this past year. For a crisis in any of our municipal buildings. I don't want to get into too much from the security end, but we are taking steps at the Rhoda Center from monies that have been appropriated to 2019 capital to improve security there as well. And that should be done in the next couple of months.
Any info on the open space recreation plan?
If it's not on the website, I'll put it on the website.
No, that's not the problem.
Yeah, that's what I said.
The plan is in the website. But it is on the website. It's not, it's, the OSRP update is on the planning board section of the website, and I believe also the recreation section of the website. It's pretty heavily dispersed with land.
It's never been approved by the planning board.
Sorry, I did stand back and forth. All right, Councilman Dunleavy.
A couple of things. Can we put my slides up on the website?
Sure.
They're in the agenda packet, but
Yeah, and that's a PDF, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes, it's all available on the agenda. If you want to post it separately,
Yes, let's just
somewhere, we can
yeah,
post it.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Two, Ms. Belcher, your point about stakeholders is absolutely critical. Inevitably, my fear is that we leave someone out. So I'm trying to create a process by which all forms of communication will work for all people, so that that doesn't occur. And to get the word out as many ways as we possibly can as we enter into this process. So I thoroughly agree with you. Having been through these processes many times, it's important to have all of them. In terms of electronic only responses, that's not part. If you take a look at the slides, you'll see that I have listed forums at various points in time. We can increase it if we feel the need to, so that people will have a place to come, to have a discussion, to see what's being done up to that point and give input. So I think we'll be able to get at it that way, hopefully. And then 4, in terms of mechanism for implementation, well, the council will ultimately approve this document. And in the document, it's going to have action plans, metrics, and outcomes that we're going to monitor over the course of the year. We'll put in a mechanism in place to follow that for meetings. So we will see how it works. This does not supersede an ordinance. This doesn't supersede any other type of law in the township. This is basically our, I'll call it a philosophical roadmap, for the lack of a better way of saying it, but it should drive many of our decisions or influence decisions.
Yes, sir, Dr. Pruitt.
Yeah, I'm thinking about protecting your strategic plan. my mind,
My strategic plan? or-
no, it's your goals. You have values, vision, goals, action plan, and all those different steps. If, when we have concluded one of those, let's say values, we put it in order. When we get to the next thing, which would be vision, put that in order. And the vision in order, so that as we progress, we protect what we've done before we get to the end. That would be a way of saving some of the lost stuff that we've had over time. That's my comment on that. The other one is, Dean, if you looked at the plaza next to the east and that parking lot.
The restaurant?
Yeah. It's going to have a little plaza play area.
Yes, it's Pepper Street lot.
It just seems like it's narrower than it was in my mind. Maybe my vision is bad, or maybe I didn't measure it right. That plaza seems awfully narrow.
We haven't lost any spaces in that parking lot. We preserved all the parking.
No, I understand that, but we were trying to preserve the parking spaces and also get something useful out of what was left. And I don't know if it had worked out exactly like we thought it was going to work out, or maybe it's just a poor vision.
It's the plan, the concept. I think it's looking pretty good. I'll look at it this week and meet with Sal.
That's it.
Question on those ones, are we having a grand opening or ribbon cutting or anything for the streetscape?
Yes, once everything's done, we have, council gonna have to make a decision if you want to do that right away, or if you want to wait till spring. Some of the things are not going to be done until spring, such as some bush plantings, shrubbery that we can't do now. That will be done in the first thing in spring. There's one or two light poles that need to be fixed. Unfortunately, I think there was one or two accidents that took down some light poles already. Zucaro was responsible for that until we signed off on the project, so that will be done as well. So we need to make a decision if it's something we want to do once Zucaro is done with the Bedford Street lot, or wait until beginning of spring once they finish all the landscaping that needs to be done. Most of the trees have been planted though.
Or we do it at the end, when we have it done.
Oh, the landscaping, the final landscaping will be done at the beginning of spring. If you want to do something now towards the latter end of December, we can once he's done with the Bedford Street lot.
I think we should wait and do it one time when it's done.
I agree with that.
Yep, sounds good to me. All right, any other items? Okay, motion to close. So before we do, yes.
I want to know if at the next council meeting, we could officially acknowledge Dean. I know that he doesn't want to be acknowledged, but I think the city.
Sounds good.
Dean did not hear anything.
I'm announcing.
We did, but we as a council, unfortunately,
Dean
they
did not
this,
hear
they
anything.
do this to the residents for acknowledging.
Yes, Dr.
But
Brewer.
the council did not. Am I correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
I have an announcement. You may have not have heard about. The Teaneck High School has an organization called the Mosaic organization. It's a multicultural thing. And they have a movie which is going to be shown on Thursday at the Teaneck Cinema. And they've interviewed 12 people about their views of multiculturalism. I'm one of them. It might be an interesting afternoon for you to spend at the Teaneck Cinema at 8 o'clock. It's a Teaneck High School project called Mosaic. Everybody's welcome, it's free.
There's some flyers.
So I want to thank FQ for opening up his home to us. I want to thank Denise for being here. Thank the residents as well for participating. And most important, thank the staff for putting this together, the council for working hard on this retreat. I think this was a productive start. Please, as I request, everyone to take sandwiches and have yourself a safe return.
Thank you.